Is it possible that Ferrari, one of the most powerful teams in the history of F1, has resigned from the season before reaching the last third of the championship? What happened within Maranello so that the SF25 arrives in Singapore without a single improvement since June? This is the silent collapse. There are no shouts. There are no headlines. Only the certainty that the 2025 season for Ferrari ceased to exist long before it ends. And that kind of failure that is accepted without fighting is the most dangerous of all. Singapore is, in essence, an anomaly within the calendar of Formula One. Not only because of its urban circuit nature or by the fact that it runs at night under a humid heat that soaks the entire paddock, but because it forces the teams to play under other rules. And for Ferrari, in the middle of a season where everything seems to collapse, this place offers, paradoxically, a small window of hope, a kind of technical shelter. Marina Bay's layout is narrow, technical, low speed. A circuit that does not reward the gross power so much or aerodynamic efficiency in straight as if Monza, Silverstone or Baku do. Here what matters is the mechanical grip, the pure traction, the capacity of the car to cling to the asphalt in slow outputs, the way in which it manages the temperature of the tires and the stability in braking. Marina Bay offers that kind of environment. With temperatures that exceed 30 degrees Celsius even at night, and a humidity that can reach 80%, the challenge is not so technical and physiological. The pilots lose up to 3 kilos in a race here. And that human wear, added to the difficulty of the circuit, can match what technology separates. In addition, there is the historical precedent. Ferrari has achieved 7 poles in Singapore, more than any other team. Charles Leclerc knows it, and that is why he declared with optimistic caution that the warmer conditions can play in his favor. In a year where Mercedes has significantly improved its performance in cold conditions, Ferrari sees in this urban circuit a tactical opportunity, not only technique. But that hope has very clear limits, because it is not only the design of the circuit but also the state of the car. And the SF25 not only drags structural problems, but it comes without any evolution. And when the rest of the paddock has brought specific updates for urban circuits and cooling improvements, softer suspension adjustments, reconfiguration of the motor map for traction and slow curves, Ferrari arrives empty-handed. That means that, although the circuit in theory can mask some weaknesses of the car, it does not eliminate the background problem. The rear suspension management remains poor, which will affect traction in the most closed curves of Sector 2. In addition, the lack of aerodynamic load in curve inputs, caused by that compromised setup, could generate chronic survival, making it difficult to consistency in long laps. And then there is weather. Although heat is an ally for Ferrari, the forecast is unstable. Dispersed rains are expected on Friday and Saturday, and although on Sunday it promises to be dry, any alteration of the natural grip of the urban asphalt can turn the supposed thermal advantage into a new headache. If water falls, even if it is minimal, Ferrari's only trick dissolves. So Singapore, more than hope, becomes a character test. There are no guarantees. Only the possibility, remote but tangible, that the context of the circuit hides the cracks of a car that was already abandoned by its own creators. In this type of path, where the pilot's precision matters more than anywhere else, the difference between the podium and the disaster can be reduced to a millimeter in the vertex of the curve. And in those conditions, perhaps, only perhaps, Charles Leclerc's experience or Lewis Hamilton's growing trust can make a difference. Ferrari pressure is not an emotion. It is an atmospheric constant. An invisible layer that covers everything, from the steering wheel to the looks in the briefings. It is part of the uniform. And in 2025, that pressure has adopted different forms for its 2 pilots. Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc. Every long-term project is built on one basis, faith. But in Formula One, faith is not enough. What is needed is time, money, technical talent, and tangible results. Ferrari has decided to leave 2025 behind to concentrate on what is coming, the new regulation of 2026. But the big question is not whether it is strategic. The real question is whether it is not simply a sophisticated form of self-deception. The decision to completely stop the development of the SF25 in the middle of the season is not taken lightly. It is a resignation to fight in the present, with the promise that the future will offer a rematch. In theory, it is a brave play. In practice, it is a blind bet. Because although the new aerodynamic rules, the redefinition of the MGUK, and the budget limits by 2026 can offer a generalized reset opportunity on the grille, nothing guarantees that Ferrari is the one who capitalizes that new scenario. Maranello 2026 is a concept, a vision, a promise. But it is not yet a car. And until it is on the track, until it demonstrates real performance, it is just an illusion. A fantasy that keeps the team attached for now, but that can fracture it even more if it is not fulfilled. What is at stake in Marina Bay is not the championship. Ferrari no longer fights for that. What is played is prestige, the narrative, internal morals, and above all, the possibility of saving the little that remains of a season that is no longer feeling like a campaign, but as a countdown. In this type of circuit, where each wall is centimeters from the ideal drawing, the margin of error is minimal. Singapore demands perfection not only of the pilots, but of the entire team. Each stop in boxes, each call from the wall, each adjustment in the equilibrium of the car will be decisive. Because here, an error does not translate into a loss of positions. It translates into abandonment. And in that context, Ferrari cannot afford to improvise. Because it does not have the pure rhythm to recover the lost. It does not have the technical advantage to compensate for errors. There is no room for daring strategies or experiments. Only precision remains. The most interesting thing is that, in the absence of technical development, the only thing that can make a difference is the human factor. And this is where the true battle appears. Not the one that is fought against Red Bull or McLaren, but the one that occurs within the team itself. Lewis Hamilton arrives in Singapore with something he did not have in the first 2 races of the year: growing trust. In classification, it has begun to find a way to squeeze the car. He has managed to adapt his style to the demands of SF25. And although the car is still not competitive in front of the leaders, its experience in urban circuits makes it a dangerous contender into chaotic conditions. Charles Leclerc, on the other hand, has demonstrated an almost intuitive knowledge of the car. His ability to bring an unstable machine to the limit has allowed him to extract more performance than, in theory, it is possible. But that virtue also exposes it. Because to achieve this, you must always run to the edge. And in Singapore, the edge is an invisible line between heroism and abandonment. Ferrari's technical team, meanwhile, faces a strategic dilemma that does not seem to have a clear solution. In a route that favors traction and punishes instability, the SF25 arrives with one of its most exposed weaknesses: a rear suspension unable to correctly absorb weight transfers. This affects not only curve entrance but also the exit. And in a circuit composed of more than 20 curves, many of them in the first or second march, this is equivalent to wearing a stone tied to the neck. Given this scenario, it is most likely that Ferrari opt for a conservative approach. They will seek to ensure points, minimize risks, bet on reliability and possibility if meteorology allows you to take advantage of a strategic window if safety car enters. But even that has a price. Because when running without ambition, the surprise element is lost. And if others know that you are not going to attack, you become predictable. And in F1, the predictable is vulnerable. The other great factor will be the weather. Singapore is famous for its unpredictable climate. Electric storms may appear suddenly, and extreme humidity puts both tires and cooling systems at the limit. If the rain appears, the script changes completely. And in that scenario, Hamilton's experience, combined with the natural aggressiveness of Leclerc, can become a lethal weapon or the trigger for a new disaster. And while all this happens on the track, outside it another more subtle battle will be fought, the battle of the narratives. Because each race is an episode in history that teams build for the future. A podium in Singapore could serve to make up the 2025 debacle. A good performance under pressure could reaffirm confidence in the 2026 project. But one more error, a bad strategy, a double withdrawal, and all that narrative falls apart. That is why this race is not about winning. It's about surviving. It is about sending a message that even when everything is lost, Ferrari is still Ferrari. That the rampant Cavallino can still gallop in the dark, even if it is injured. That you can still bite even if you don't have sharp teeth this season. And if that does not happen, if not even in their historically favorable circuit they can answer, then the inevitable will have to be accepted. That this season was not a step back to take impulse. It was a free fall without a network. Ferrari arrives in Singapore with the worn skin of a season that no longer struggles to save. But the interesting thing is not what the team can achieve tonight under the spotlights of Marina Bay. The really important thing is what this weekend can reveal about what is still alive within Maranello. Because this Grand Prix will not be a battle for victory. It will be a struggle for respect. For not disappearing from the media focus. To demonstrate that, despite the technical abandonment, there is still pride in the boxes. There is still character in your pilots. And there is still a flame although he maintains the Cavallino in motion. But now I ask you, what do you expect from Ferrari in Singapore? Do you trust that Leclerc and Hamilton can rescue a podium or even something else, with pure quality at the wheel and some strategic luck? Do you think this circuit can really hide the technical limitations of SF25? Or are we facing another inevitable chapter of a descending narrative? Leave me your opinion in the comments. Would you have abandoned the development of 2025 so late? Or do you think there was still something to fight for?